Imagine going down a rainy London street in the fall of 1958. Fog coils between the lampposts, and rows of slate-roofed terraces vanish into the mist. Then a flash of Italian flair on British steel glides past a little two-door saloon, sporting brilliant pastel paint, delicate chrome, and the type of precise body lines you'd expect on a Lancia or Alfa, not on a lowly Austin. In that instant, you've met the Austin A40 Farina, the quietly revolutionary small vehicle that would sneak a whole new body type into popular driving and, in the process, revolutionize how families packed their baggage for decades to come. The A40's journey begins with post-war Britain in recovery mode. Domestic manufacturers had weathered the austere years by banking on reliable pre-war tooling. But by the mid-1950s, the British Motor Corporation (BMC) faced stiff European competition and a restless domestic market. Austin's spunky A30 and A35 saloons were sellers. However, their chubby features shouted early 1950s. Leonard Lord, the mercurial CEO of BMC, needed drama, something to lift British showrooms out of the grey rain, both literally and figuratively. So he booked a jet to Turin and courted Battista Pininfarina, the design genius whose workshop clothed Ferraris, Lancias, and Peugeots. Farina's acceptance made headlines. Here was the first mass-market British automobile to be fashioned by Italy's most famed carrozzeria. Farina provided a form that felt a full decade ahead of its timer. Cleaned a box profile with a modest kick-up at the C-pillar, short roof pillars, and a near-vertical tail that maximized internal capacity. Britain has never seen anything like it. Most compact saloons of the era had gently sloping three-box rear decks. Farina's A40 cut that overhang, allowing passengers additional headroom and letting light flood the cabin. It also foretold the European hatchback revolution, but that twist would manifest itself 1 year later. When the covers came off at the 1958 London Motor Show, the A40 startled audiences. Both Battista and his son Sergio stood by the prototype, reveling in flashbulbs, typically reserved for large Healeys or Jaguars. Yet behind the international paint was familiar Austin DNA. The chassis took much of its running gear from the preceding A35, independent front suspension with coils, a live axle rear on leaf springs, and drum brakes hydraulically actuated in front, but cable-operated aft. Power came from the ever-reliable 948cc, a series inline 4, rated at 34 horsepower and good for around 67 miles per hour in magazine tests. Those stats wouldn't raise eyebrows today, but for cash-strapped late 50s motorists, the A40's Thrift 38 MPG in the motor mattered more than pure speed. Drivers immediately recognized the small Austin punched above its weight in usefulness. Unlike the tiny Morris Minor, the A40's boxy roof meant rear passengers could sit straight without scraping the headliner, and a tidy vinyl tonneau hid baggage behind the back seat. Yet the actual masterstroke emerged in October 1959. The A40 Countryman, Farina and BMC engineers chopped the tail vertically, installed a top-hinged rear window and a bottom-hinged apron, and developed the first commercially available British vehicle with a split tailgater proto-hatchback long before the name was fashionable. Fold the bench, drop the bottom gate, and suddenly this 12-foot runabout could swallow a pram, a Labrador, or a weekend's worth of camping gear. For families who'd spent years making do with stuffed to bursting saloons, it seemed like a magic trick, the urban footprint of a Mini and the cargo adaptability of a compact van. Long roof estates existed, of course, but they were longer, heavier, and taxed as commercial in certain towns. The Countryman democratized utility, and its effect resonated loudly when Volkswagen's Golf and Renault's A5 debuted in the 1970s. BMC didn't rest on early accolades. In 1961, the Mark II A40 emerged with a 3.5-inch wheelbase stretch, most of it plowed into rear seat legroom and a revised grille that looked sharper and breathed better. Synchromesh now served the top 3 gears of the 4-speed box, while an anti-roll bar reinforced the nose. Power climbed to 37 horsepower, and, by late 1962, 248 horsepower when the Torquewire 1098 CCA series arrived. Top speed crept into the mid-70s, rapid enough that owners reported an enjoyable tail-out position on wet B roads. Crucially, average fuel usage still hovered around 36 mpg gold dust amid escalating gas costs. Farina flair wasn't for Britain alone. In Milan, industrial titan Innocente signed a licensing contract and began building CKD kits in 1960. Quickly progressing to full local manufacture, Italians could choose the Innocente A40 Farina or the more adaptable Combinata, which mirrored the Countryman's split tailgate but featured body-colored C-pillars and racy wheel trims. By late 1962, Innocente even experimented with a single-piece liftback, arguably the world's first compact family car with a one-piece hatch. Some years before the Renault 16, these cross-alpine hybrids blurred the distinction between saloon and estate, establishing an unintended design language that would later define the generic hatch. The A40's passport filled quickly. CKD kits shipped to Australia, South Africa, Mexico, and the Netherlands. New Zealand manufactured its own local variation. Total output totaled around 342,000 units by the time the line halted in 1967. That statistic may pale against the 5 million plus Morris miners, yet the Farina created an enduring niche. Austin marketing even devised phrases around big car comfort in pint pot dimensions. And sales brochures bragged of front bucket seats and folding side windows, an uncommon cost-saving solution that customers either admired for its simplicity or despised for chilly drafts. On British club racing circuits, the A40 rapidly punched above its weight. Stripped-out saloons entered the inaugural British Saloon Car Championship, where their lightness and neat handling embarrassed heavier Fords in the 1000cc class. At Goodwood's St Mary's Trophy Revival races today, you'll still see pastel A40s dicing alongside Minis and Alfa. Giulietta's proof that Farina's box still hustles when encouraged. If this voyage into the A40's history kindled you can practically smell the combination of warm vinyl and two-star petrol, or hear the clatter of an A-series tappet on a cold morning. Then join us next time as we discover another buried jewel. Until then, keep your revs modest and your luggage light, and remember that sometimes the vehicles that alter the world are the ones humble enough to slide through history under everyone's nose tailgate, clicking gently into place.